amphitheater of the Romans. So it's a lot of history there. So you could compare a bit to today, you know, if you want to go to the Americas, you need to fly through, I don't know, Amsterdam, right, Nico? That's kind of the key harbor nowadays, or the key airport. But so he's sent to Caesarea, and then he's with these Roman governors, and they don't really know what to do with him, because they cannot really find a crime in him, because he hasn't killed anyone. It's just more like of a theological debate he's having with the Jews. So the Jews are making claims, and they come to Felix, and they talk to the governor and say, yeah, we need to kill him, or we need to put him in prison, and we need to condemn him. And then Felix says, well, I don't want to decide, I don't really know, because he hasn't done anything wrong. And he waits there 2 years with Felix, until Felix is replaced by a new governor called Festus. And then this Festus, immediately when he enters into his function, he goes to Jerusalem, and the Jews again, they start talking to him and say, well, yeah, we have this Paul in Caesarea, you need to deliver him to us. And Festus is like, well, but I still don't really know how to decide, because I have nothing, what can I do against Paul, because he hasn't committed any crime. And the Jews convinced him that he should send Paul to Jerusalem for a trial. And then at this moment, Paul appeals to Caesar. He said, I want to go to Rome because I need to be tried by Caesar only, by the emperor. And then Festus says, okay, fine, you want to go to Rome? Okay, you stay with me. I'm going to send you to Rome and not deliver you to Jerusalem. And the problem is he doesn't know what to write about Paul when he sends him as a prisoner to Rome, because he has no argument. He didn't do any crime, right? And he doesn't know what to say. And at the same time, you have the king of Judea, Herod Agrippa, who is the last Herodian king, the fifth one, who appears to be in town there in Caesarea. And Festus is actually very happy, because he says, okay, you know about the customs of the Jews, so you will help me to find arguments against Paul. And then they set up this, big gathering. It's not really an official trial, but it's just a meeting where they gonna ask him about what is going on. So you have Festus, the Roman governor, and you have Agrippa, the king. These two people who seem to be relatively reasonable, because actually Agrippa had been educated in Rome. He was a typical client king of the Romans in that territory, and he was actually serving more the interests of the Roman than of the Jews, and actually his later life shows that. So is there, and relatively these two people are relatively reasonable. So Paul actually could feel that he stands a chance to make his case before these people. Now that's exactly what I was pointing at with my question. What would you do if you would be in that situation? And it's very interesting to see that what Paul does actually when he appears before Festus and Agrippa is that he simply says the truth. He delivers the full message of the gospel. He's not hiding anything. He's just going all in his message. And I was just going to read, as I said, I'm not going to expose the whole passage because we don't have time, but I just want to read to you Paul's defense in front of this court with Agrippa. This is Acts 26, verses 1 to 8. And maybe I'm going to read for you the brief that Festus is actually giving to Agrippa the day before, because he needs to inform Agrippa, who is this Paul? Why is he here? Or why are we going to hear him? And so I'm just going to start in Acts 25:18. So that's how Festus is actually describing the case to Agrippa. Verse 18. When the accuser stood up, they brought no charge in his case of such evils as I supposed. Rather, they had certain points of dispute with him about their own religion and about a certain Jesus who was dead, but whom Paul asserted to be alive. So here we see that Festus obviously doesn't believe in Jesus. He just thinks it's an event that he doesn't really care about this whole story. He's not even interested in hearing about what could be Christianity and whether this is real. It's kind of a theological debate that the Jews are having. And I don't understand that, so please, Agrippa, help me to find some arguments that I could write down in my letter that I'm going to send to Caesar, to the emperor, when I send him on the boat to Rome. And then the next day, so chapter 26 is the trial or the hearing with Agrippa. So Agrippa said to Paul, You have permission to speak for yourself. Then Paul stretched out his hand and made his defense. And here it goes. Paul speaking. I consider myself fortunate that it is before you, King Agrippa, I'm going to make my defense today against all the accusations of the Jews, especially because you are familiar with all the customs and controversies of the Jews. Therefore, I beg you to listen to me patiently. My manner of life from my youth, spent from the beginning among my own nation and in Jerusalem, is known by all the Jews. They have known for a long time, if they are willing to testify, that according to the strictest party of our religion, I have lived as a Pharisee. And now I stand here on trial because of my hope in the promise made by God to our fathers, to which our 12 tribes hope to attain, as they earnestly worship night and day. And for this hope I am accused by Jews, O King. Why is it thought incredible by any of you that God raises the dead? And he's here insisting on this resurrection topic, which caused him already so much trouble when he was in Jerusalem. And they wanted to kill him because of that, because some of the Jews couldn't believe that there is a resurrection. And what he's trying to say here, Paul is saying, how is it so incredible that God could resurrect the dead if God is the creator of everything, which you Jews also believe that he's the creator of everything. So he's created heaven and earth, and he's created man. So how can you not believe that he can actually resurrect a person and resurrect the Lord? You know, how can you not believe that? So he's making that point. So in terms of the defense strategy, I would say he's not trying to bargain on anything. He's really going all in. And then it tells about, his conversion, when how the Lord appeared to him on the road of Damascus. So you know the story. I'm not going to tell the story again. And then once again in verses 22 and 23 of chapter 26, he gives a very clear testimony of what he believes, especially in verse 23, that the Christ must suffer, and that by being the first to rise from the dead, he would proclaim light both to our people and to the Gentiles. So again, he's talking about a suffering Christ, a suffering Messiah, which should have been known to the Jews, because in the Old Testament you have this prophecy very clearly, Isaiah 53, Psalm 22, just to give a few examples. So he's referring to that. And then again, he refers to that resurrection, the firstborn from the dead. And that's a large topic on Christology. I cannot go into the details of that. That would be a topic for a whole different message. But he's just, in terms of his defense strategy, he's just insisting on the Christian faith. He's not trying to hide anything, or he's just being very, very bold about that. And then the third thing he says is that I'm here that this message is going to proclaim light to the Jews, but also to the Gentiles. And that's the other shocker, of course, for the Jews, that the message of God would go outside of the Jewish community, would go to the whole world, to the Gentiles, that it would be accessible to everyone. And at that moment, the Roman governor Festus stops him and says, Paul, you are mad. Your great education or your erudition drives you to madness, basically. He just interrupts him. The Roman governor, but not even Agrippa. So the governor says, you just, kind of, it's a delirium somehow, what you're telling. It's not reasonable. And Paul counters and says, no, I'm not mad. I'm saying true and rational words. The ESV says rational, but actually the Greek word is sophrosines, is sober. So I'm saying true and sober words. So I'm not drunk. I'm not crazy. I'm saying the truth. There is resurrection. Our God is alive. And this message goes to the Gentiles. So, and he appeals to Agrippa. That's the interesting moment, because Festus is not interested. He's just saying, you're mad. But at this moment, he appeals to King Agrippa. He says, Agrippa, don't you believe in the prophets? And then there is this curiosity from Agrippa. He says to Paul, you almost convinced me now to become a Christian. Or do you believe that in such a short time you can convince me to become a Christian? And then Paul says, well, I would hope that whether in a short time or in a long time, not only you, but everyone would believe in Christ. So he's going very bold. I mean, he could have been killed immediately on the spot for that, with that defense strategy, because they say, not only you crazy, but you're coming with theories that are against the Jews. we're going to kill you right now on the spot. But that's not what happens, because actually he says, when he says to Agrippa, I would actually hope that not only you, but everyone would be like me, a believer like me, just without these chains, because he was a prisoner. And on that, we have the account of Festus and Agrippa walking away saying, this man is doing nothing to deserve death or imprisonment. And Agrippa said to Festus, this man could have been set free if he had not appealed to Caesar. So his strategy worked, basically, because he convinced them with his approach, being very bold, that he had done nothing wrong and that he should actually be freed. And what happens is that he's still a prisoner, but eventually they will send him on a boat to Rome, to Caesar, and then you know the story. Very complicated. It goes to Malta, it has issues there, you know, the boat breaks out. So very complicated way how we went to Rome. But you see that God was doing his plan, you know, in this whole story. Because he was just being very clear about his faith. He was not trying to hide anything. So what I wanted to illustrate today, and we only have 5 minutes, and with these keywords I think it's pretty clear, is there are different ways how we can approach a defense like that. But when we have to talk about our faith, no matter to whom we are talking, we should actually be bold and stand firm on what we believe. You may actually be rejected for what you're going to say, because people might not like that. But you might also help people to convert if you give such a bold message. Because Agrippa was almost converted, you know, like some people will actually convert through a bold message. And also, if you speak a bold message, you can also experience many kinds of blessings like Paul experienced, because eventually he went to Rome and he had the project to go to Rome. Just he didn't know exactly how he would get there, but even Jesus had appeared to him another time in Jerusalem, telling him that he would actually go to Rome. So he had that assurance that he would eventually go to Rome. And the other thing is that, of course, you could experience spectacular accelerations in your Christian life by making bold statements and by standing to your firm. I mean, things might not be easy. You could face rejections to that. But at the same time, something is going to move in your spiritual life. So I guess my question to you, or the appeal, was a bit to think, who is your Agrippa today? Or who are you witnessing to? What are your opportunities? And small and great, because that's what Paul was doing. He was preaching to small and great, to the kings, but also to the people on the street. So I don't know who is your Agrippa, or who is the person you need to witness to. Is it the tour guide at the cheese factory? Is it the operator of the cable car? Is it the lonely hiker that you have seen today? Is it someone at work? Is it maybe even your CEO at work, your boss? Is it your neighbor who sees you every Sunday morning dressed up going to church? Who are you witnessing to? Is it a family member maybe? So what I want to say, brothers, is that we have no right to hide. We have no right to hide the message, because Paul was in such a situation. He was risking his life with this message, right? But he didn't hide the message. He had all the reasons to hide it, because he wanted to preserve his life. He could have kind of tried to argue, say, yeah, well, I don't really believe that there is really a resurrection. It's a theological concept. Don't worry. We can find a kind of common ground with what you believe. He could have done that, in the hope that he would be freed. But that's not what he did. He went very bold with the message and said, this is what I believe. And I'm also ready to die for that message, That's quite extreme. And that's what he did. And if he did that, I think that we, living in a country which is actually free in terms of what we can believe, we even have less reasons to hide the message. There's no reason, because we're not risking our life, And I know, there is missionaries among us, people who went on mission, who have, lost a lot, and there's a lot of sacrifice going with mission. So I know this is also there, and I have a lot of compassion for that. But I'm also encouraged by that, because even if you have experienced this challenge or these losses in your missionary life, in your walk with Jesus, you have not given up, and you kept walking for the Lord, and you kept being a witness. And that's encouraging for me and encouraging for everyone here. It should be that we should be strong in witnessing to everyone and not hiding the message, especially because we live in a country where there is really no risk. And we are in a country where all other groups are proclaiming and celebrating a lot of lifestyles that are not biblical, right? And they do it freely and they celebrate that. So why should we hide? Because if they do it, why should we hide with our message? We are asked to be super tolerant with everything that happens in society. So I'm asking the others in the society also to be tolerant with our message and to be able to speak about what we believe, because we have really nothing to fear. So that's what I wanted to tell you today, basically, based on this message. And I think it's interesting to see these different approaches in this context. So, yeah, it's 12 o'clock, so we should start walking probably to the cheese event. But just wanted to ask someone to close in prayer for that message, basically, and for that calling that I think we have to speak the message. Gary, do you mind closing in prayer?